What is up, guys? Welcome to the Limo show. Limo here, and I got with me a very special guest, Riley. Welcome, Riley. Glad to have you here.
Thanks, Limo. Appreciate it.
Welcome. So Riley basically is a sleep expert, a sleep consultant. He actually manages the website, thesleepconsultant.com. And yeah, man, he got amazing success stories. He's built an incredible community around sleep and all of that. I've been following his work on Facebook for a while now, and I'm glad to have him here. So yeah, glad to have you here, man.
Yeah, pleasure to be on. I'm excited to dive in today. Sleep and health and everything else just bleeds into lifestyle, relationships, getting more done in less period of time. So yeah, it's definitely something that everyone needs for sure.
Absolutely. So yourself, maybe for some people who don't know you yet, like what's your story again? Like how did you get into this? What made you start this sleep movement and this career?
Yeah, it's a great question. Everybody asked me the same, like, why sleep? It seems so random. And it was interesting for me because I started out in finance. I was working like 12 to 18-hour work days. It's what I went to school for, and everything was going good. And honestly, it was just because I wanted to be rich. And they say if you want to make money, chase the money, and you'll eventually lead there. And I was working that job probably about 6 to 12 months, but then my health started to deteriorate. I was making clumsy mistakes. I was, not making deadlines. And long story short, I was forced to quit my job, and I was getting brain fog, drinking coffee, and I literally thought I was going crazy. So first place I went to was my family doctor, sent me to like a couple dozen specialists. Turns out, it was a couple months after that, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, which is pretty much an autoimmune disease that can cause you to feel
Yeah.
fatigue. And unfortunately, mine was pretty bad. And they gave me medication, but the side effects from the medication made me actually feel worse. So back against the wall, quit my job, collecting debt. I was kind of fell into a dark place at the time. This was probably about 10 years ago. And it was at that point that I had to just learn and understand, how does our biology actually work? Like our genetics, our hormones, our gut, our brain neurotransmitters, and how do all these systems communicate with each other? And so I was just diving into the books like hours upon hours a day for just a couple of years. Like this became my obsession. That's all I really thought about. I was masterminding with other people, spending tens of thousands of dollars with doctors around the world. And then I finally felt like I had this thing, this model of better health coming all together. Now, it's not as advanced as, the science back then as it is now. It would have been a lot easier if I was doing it now. But, through this whole thing and doing certifications and different education, one thing I noticed is when I started improving like my diet 1 month, my exercise 1 month, and my sleep 1 month, when I got to that sleep month, everything improved for me like beyond what I ever expected. My biomarkers got better with my blood. My energy started to improve. My brain fog went away. I didn't eat coffee anymore. And I just had this clean slate of energy that lasted from morning until nighttime, and like everything was better, and my performance shot even further to what it was before. And I was really thinking like, I'm onto something here that people don't really know about. And so it was helping friends of friends, and then it just kind of expanded to the business of what it is today with helping people around the world.
Yeah, no, amazing story, man. And I was because I'm in your program myself. I mean, I think it's an amazing program for entrepreneurs to join, and I think definitely sleep is one of the most important things in life. I mean, if you don't have the sleep, then you're going to be tired all day. You're not going to be able to work efficiently, even in your relationships. I like what you said in your course. Like that also affects your relationship because you get
Yep.
you get upset more easily. I
Yeah.
mean, you have a harder time managing your emotions, etc. when you lack sleep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
definitely it helps a lot with that. Now, what
Yeah.
was the ticking point for you where like you told yourself, okay, like the threshold where, okay, now I'm gonna become a sleep expert, that's it, I'm gonna do that.
Mhm.
Like, was it the Crohn's disease thing, or was it before that, or was it like the moment? I thought the moment you did decide, like that's it.
Yeah, so it's a great question. And for me, it was Crohn's that really sparked me on this whole entire health journey. And it was also what sparked me on this whole entrepreneurial journey, because I realized that I was developing this skill set that nobody is really teaching other people. And, sleep is sort of a blue ocean where people aren't really talking about it. And so the more I went along that journey, Crohn's set me on this path where I started helping other people. They told people, they told their friends, their friends. And then, once I remember getting my first paying client, it was at that point that I was able to really have this epiphany of like, wow, I can make an actual business out of this and scale this to the moon. And it was along that same time I was, following a lot of influencers like Gary Vaynerchuk, Alex Becker, Ty Lopez, Sam Ovens, and how they teach things is you take that one skill and you're able to teach other people in the form of a course. And for me, it started one-on-one, and then it scaled to kind of group-based coaching, and now it's kind of a combination of the two. And so, fast forward, it's probably about 7 years later now. It's just really taken a whole thing of its own.
Yeah, it's amazing. No, honestly, it's quite amazing. And where do you see your business in like 5, 10 years? Like, you still want to do this for like even 10, 15, 20 years, or you feel like at some point you're going to transition into something else?
Yeah, it's one question I've asked me again and again and again, myself again and again and again. And I think, I get so much joy in helping people and improving their health and their performance. And it's not just about sleep. Like, it's not just improving sleep for sleep's sake, but when I'm able to see people like turn an 8-hour workday into 4 hours, or somebody who's on sleep medication and a bunch of, pills, or people who are diabetic, now they're not diabetic anymore. Their doctor said they're in very dangerous health and now they're feeling better. And you see these transformations compared to working in finance, looking at spreadsheets all day. It is like a night and day difference of how you can change that for people. But especially in the realm of relationships, like I see, husband and wife on the verge of divorce, and they're just horrible people to be around because they themselves are just like miserable people to be around no matter who they are around. And so when we're able to improve who they are as a person, they're more easygoing, they want to help out people more, they're more present, and it just reflects. And I think just the polarity between the man and the woman is just so much more solidified that way. And just naturally that dynamic gets a lot better. So, whatever that looks like for you, you want to become a better leader. Another interesting one actually is sales calls. I send all my clients an Aura ring where you can track your sleep and see, but I've been able to correlate a higher sleep score with higher closing rates on the call. Because if you think about it, you can use say all the words you want, all the sales tactics, anything, even when when it comes to pickup or girls or anything else, you can say the line, but it's the communication behind the line that actually matters, the delivery of it. But if you're more focused, more awake, the timing is better, and you don't even notice it. It's when you're fully rested that you're able to do it. And sometimes you don't even know why. It's just effortless. It's like, how did I close that call? It felt effortless. Well, that was because you focused on your biology. So everything's running on all pistons. You don't have to force anything anymore. It's coming from like this power dynamic where it's just effortless.
Yeah, no, exactly. I've noticed that myself too. Like when you have better sleep, etc., like the micro calibrations are way better, like in your tonality, in your facial expressions, in the way you speak. And you can come up with stuff that you wouldn't have thought about if you're super tired. Because if you're super tired, if you're in sales, if you're super tired, you're going to stick by the script mainly. You're going to stick a bit by the script. But when you sleep better, you can like come up with stuff, and you can just like can think better. Yeah, no, definitely. And so one question that I have is, what are some of the common things that you've seen entrepreneurs struggle with when it comes to sleep? What are some of the common mistakes that entrepreneurs do, or most people do, and how can they avoid them?
For sure. So one of the biggest ones, a lot of them, either two issues. One is they can't get to sleep because their mind is just racing. They think what they have to do the next day, or they're waking up in the middle of the night, whether they have to wake up to go to the bathroom, whether they have to wake up they're just thinking about something. They feel anxiety, or they just wake up and they don't know why, and they can't get back to sleep. And now they, let's say they wake up at 4 a.m., they have to wake up at 6 a.m. Typically, they're just like, okay, I'm going to wake up early. Now I'll drink coffee and get on with the day. But if you do this day after day, week after week, your biology is you're going to be burning the candle from one end to the other, and it's just going to cause you to feel what we just talked about, where you're not able to be your best self in every single situation. Some of the things that people can do, though, so sleep comes down to a number of things, and it's overall inflammation in the body. Depending if you want to take a long-term approach or a short-term approach. Short-term approach, I could give you stuff all day long. You could take melatonin, a sleeping pill. You could take, like essential oils beside your bed. You could have, any forms of supplements. You could do like a meditation. Some people like to drink alcohol, even though that deprives sleep, but getting to sleep, it can be easier for some people to really wind down, shifting from like fifth gear down to first gear. And that's a short-term approach. but it's kind of a band-aid on the symptom that's happening. It's not actually getting to the root cause. I like the philosophy more that we get to the root cause of where is this actually coming from. Now the symptom doesn't manifest in the first place, and it's sustainable for the rest of our life. And when we do that way, yes, the upfront cost might be a little bit more work, but if we just take that investment in ourselves, think of it like a bank account. If we're always running this deficit each day and we don't prioritize sleep, the next day we're not going to be able to feel as good. Versus if we bank that the night before, it's going to pay us dividends the next day. And so what we can do to improve our sleep, a couple different things, taking this longer term approach, is completely dark room, just going through the basics here. Dark room, cold bedroom we also want, you can do essential oils, not looking at any blue light sources like our phone or anything else. 2 hours ideally before bed, but 1 hour I would say at a minimum. Recent study came out, 1 hour of blue light before bed reduces melatonin by 90%, which is our master sleep hormone, which is huge because we need that for our deep and our REM sleep. Now, each night we need about 90 minutes of deep sleep and 90 minutes of REM sleep. The deep sleep is in the first cycle of our sleep. So if we sleep 8 hours, think of the first 4 hours of more deep sleep, so restoring our physical body. REM sleep, that most of us know, in the second stage of our sleep, is REM sleep. Now, REM sleep is restoring more of our mind. If we wake up in the middle of the night, though, we are not going to be getting enough REM sleep. And that's why we can feel groggy a lot the next day. And so we have to minimize that as much as we can. So what do we do about it? A big reason we wake up in the middle of the night is because we're riding this blood sugar roller coaster, where blood sugar shoots up and now our body has to secrete insulin to bring it back down. Then it goes too low, and then our body has to shoot in cortisol to bring it back up. And our body isn't used to it. So we should be between like +1, -1. But now if we're going +2, -2, +3, -3, it's just way out of its boundaries. That's going to cause us to wake up in the middle of the night. So focusing on like low, healthy diet overall is very important for this, especially our last meal before bedtime. We don't want to have anything too heavy before bedtime or too sugary before bedtime. Not having any meals, 4 to 5 hours before bedtime would be ideal. You could still have something like blueberries and like honey, or like good sources of fat are good to regulate blood sugar, like cashew butter, almond butter, peanut butter. You can even have like an avocado before bed. Those are excellent as well. Beyond that, though, things you definitely want to look at is what is causing stress to happen inside of your body. Is it because your hormones are off? Is it because there's something in your genetics that we need to know about? Do you have a parasite potentially in your gut that comes awake and it's causing these reactions to happen? Is it because you have leaky gut? So any of the food that you're eating leaks into your bloodstream and now it's causing an inflammatory reaction, meaning during sleep, there's this hidden stressor that causes you to wake up in the middle of the night because your cortisol will spike. So it's sort of some of these things that you have to be aware of. But yeah, food, exercise, keeping stress low as much as we can, and really just making it so our body and our system isn't running on overdrive all the time. Reducing coffee whenever we can. If you're a big coffee drinker and you're trying to get off of it without going cold turkey, check out a coffee called Four Sigmatic. They're kind of a mushroom coffee, but they're really good. They got some caffeine. They're sort of a gateway to getting off. You can use apps like Brain.fm to put your brain to relaxation mode. That's really good where you wear headphones. You can also use an application I like on the computer, is amazing. There's one called Flux, but the one that I like more, it's a new one. Oh, you have it. Awesome. Yeah, there's a new one that I just discovered. It's even better. It's called iristech.co. So iristech.co. I think it's only $2 or $3 a month, but like it does not only dimming the light on your computer, but also like the screen flicker rate and all these other ones that set on a timer where closer to bedtime, it'll just automatically dim for you. So you combine that with blue light blocking glasses, like a couple hours prior to bedtime, and you will like, it's lights out usually. And it's interesting because usually, we're awake up until 10 p.m. Let's say that's when we normally go to bed. But if we wear these blue light blocking glasses or these different blue light screen reducers, we'll find our body actually getting tired sooner. And people don't know why, but that's actually when our body is naturally tired. So those are a couple things too. You can also do like an that can be good. You can put your bed on about a 3-inch incline from where your head is. That can help you sleep better without going to the science of it all. It's to help with the drainage while you sleep with your lymphatic system. those are probably the biggest ones that people can use to get started. We can go way more advanced on this stuff, but you have to be realistic.
Yeah, no, man, that's crazy. You gave a lot of tips here, so that's amazing. Thanks for sharing all these tips. And I have some questions. So first of all, the first thing is like 4 or 5 hours before going to sleep, you don't eat anything. 4 or 5 hours. It's a lot.
Yeah, you can. I know it's tough. A lot of people say like, man, I can't do that. I only have 1 hour before sleep that I have to go to sleep to wake up for work the next day. But yeah, ideally 4 to 5 hours. But what I would say is this is like, if you could, like, an ideal meal would be something like, let's say you had a steak with vegetables and a sweet potato. This is known as carb backloading. This is a little bit more advanced, but it's interesting. Is if we have a good source of carbs, so like it could be white rice, potatoes, sweet potatoes, nothing that's like sugary. What this will do is the carb will increase our serotonin, also like our blood sugar, which will help us get to sleep easier, but it'll help us relax. But it will increase serotonin, which is a precursor to melatonin. That'll actually help us not only get to sleep, but also stay asleep too. So if you are going to save your carbs, if you're going to bed, let's say 10, 11 p.m., try and have your last meal around 5 or 6 p.m. You can go towards 7 p.m. Everybody is different though. I mean, this is obviously a cookie cutter approach. The only way to know is if you experiment with yourself and just see, like, try this time eating every single night for a week, journal the results, try the next week and see what works best.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. I think everyone is different. And you even mentioned it in your course. The sleep chronotypes, right? Everybody has an animal. I think there's dolphin, lion, bear, and wolf, right?
Yeah,
that's what you said. And so I like that idea because honestly, I've seen tons of entrepreneurs who are, they sleep, they don't sleep as much and they get extraordinary results. Yeah, and other people, they want to do like the whole classical, like 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. they're up and then they do the whole thing. So what do you think about that? Do you think an entrepreneur can still be successful and can still operate at full capacity, even if he doesn't really sleep as good? Or like, look at Trump. You gave that example. For example, Trump, he sleeps like 3 or 4 hours or something, and he's good. He's 80. He's energetic. So what do you think?
He's good to go. He's so Trump is one of the lucky ones. There's about 1 or 2% of the population who are just genetic freaks who can only sleep like 2 or 3 hours a night and they can just go. So, I mean, everybody knows those kind of people. Like, they're the best partiers. Like, they can stay up and the next day they can work like a 12-hour shift. No problem at all. And they can do that for years on end. The issue with that, though, is you can start to develop, certain risks of diseases, for example, because we need proper REM sleep for not developing Alzheimer's and everything else. Short term, it's okay if you can do it. But for the majority of us, 95% of the population, we need, and again, it's where we have to experiment to see what works best for us. But my philosophy is this: I'm not a stickler saying, okay, everybody has to get to bed at this time and wake up at this time. But if we can increase the quality of those hours of sleep, especially for entrepreneurs who sometimes don't have a lot of hours to sleep, we can sometimes make someone who sleeps 6 hours with super high quality better than them sleeping 8 to 9 hours at times. And if we can do that, now we free up 2 hours each day, multiply that by 365 days a year. They have a lot more time on their hands that they can use. That's not the ideal goal. We want them to feel the best way that they can. But another thing that you touched on is, so there's different chronotypes, and, every single one of us is, genetically wired to sleep a certain way and to wake up a certain way. And that's why we are all unique in our each own way. And one way we can see this, another sort of scale, is there's morning people and there's nighttime people. That's called a morning lark or a night owl. And you can actually do a genetic test on yourself to see which one you are. Now, the interesting thing is a lot of people have been following the same schedule. Like, let's say they've been waking up at like 4 or 5 a.m. for like 5-10 years. They're like, yeah, of course I'm a morning person. Like, I've been doing that forever. The thing is, though, is they've just been following that schedule for so long, they think that's their normal. But we run a genetic test on them, and we actually see they're a night owl. They're better to work later into the night and then sleep in a little bit. And so now what we do is we shift their schedule just a couple hours later. So, instead of waking up maybe 4 or 5 a.m., maybe they wake up at like 7 or 8 a.m., and then they start getting their peak work done by about 10 a.m. But now they stay up later. And what we're able to do with this, 50% right away, because we get that crazy.
Yeah, but that's super interesting. So some people, for example, they stuck to a routine for 10 years of like waking up at 4 a.m. But then when they found out that there were a different chronotype, actually, they got better results, like waking up later and starting the day later. That's what you said?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So once we can get a genetic match between what our genetics actually need, are we a morning person or are we a nighttime person? And then we can match our environment to that and our daily schedule to that. We can improve our productivity so much. It's where we have a mismatch between what our genetics need and our environment. That's when we're not, achieving peak performance and getting our full potential out of that. Just quick little tip that's kind of interesting. If 30% of the population is a morning person, 70% is a nighttime person. And so that's interesting to consider, that most of us, especially with the 9 to 5 job, are waking up in the morning. But if we just shift, like they've shown studies, you shift employees' hours just a couple hours later, their productivity shoots through the roof. So, but it really depends on you, especially when you're a high performing entrepreneur. Every single percent counts. So that's why having a genetic test is pretty valuable.
Yeah. And how did you, because I don't know if you had that too in the beginning, but I still have that where like when we're around like 10, 11 p.m., midnight, something like that, I start having that mindset of like, I want to do one more piece of productivity. I want to do one more email, one more DM, one more thing, one more video to check out. And it's always like that entrepreneurial spirit of like, I want to do one more thing. I don't want my day to be over because I need to do stuff. So how do you overcome that mindset of like, shit, I need to go to sleep now, even though I didn't accomplish everything.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's really hard being an entrepreneur, especially for us personality A types. We just want to get as much done as possible. And it's almost as if we don't finish that last email or that last project we have to finish before we go to bed. We think that we're going to bed like with a failed day, essentially. But think of it this way. If you feel your mind getting tired, that should be the time when it's time to shut everything off. Because if you don't do that, you should really give yourself 1 hour at least for your mind to just quiet. Whether you're closing your eyes listening to an audiobook, your mind has to go from fifth gear, sixth gear down to first gear if you want to sleep better. Now, if you wanted to take like an hour and a half, an hour before bedtime to put your brain on overdrive to finish that one thing, you're going to decrease the quality of your sleep. Now, the following day, you have, let's say, 12 hours of decreased performance. So if you look at that ratio, like 1 hour compared to 12 hours, sometimes it's not worth it. At the time, it doesn't seem like it. You're just like, well, I'll just drink a coffee and get on with it. But think of it, it's like the analogy I said before with dividends. Think of it like you're paying yourself money in the bank, but you're going to sleep. So when you wake up, you can get the dividends the very next day.
Yeah, so you cash in your ships earlier to earn more.
Totally.
Later.
That's just it. Yeah, bingo.
Yeah, no, it's a great analogy, like the sleep debt and the banking, like the analogy between banking and sleep and all of that. I like that, and I like what you said also. That was very interesting. That was the first time I heard it. It was in your course. It was 1 hour of sleep before midnight is worth 2 hours of sleep after midnight. Is that true?
Yeah.
Like, is that? It's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Yeah, people who get to sleep after midnight usually will see diminishing returns versus if you get 1 hour, every 1 hour you get to bed before midnight usually equals about 2 hours. Obviously, everybody's going to be different. If you're a night owl, then maybe you can stay asleep a little later into the night versus somebody who's a morning person, then they benefit a lot more. So it just depends on you, but generally, the overall lesson there is getting to bed earlier is better than staying awake later and not putting your body into overdrive. So figure out like, what is your ideal baseline? Like, let's say you had no alarm clocks. Let's say when you wake up, you're able to go into the sun a couple hours before bedtime. You could go in the dark, find out what your body's natural rhythms are. And what is the time that you wake up without doing this genetic test? And let's say you just don't know. And once you find what that baseline is, try and abide to that. I think a big thing here too is listening to your body as much as possible. We sometimes just get in the way with so much logic, but if we can kind of tune into your intuition, like, does my body feel tired right now? The scientific word is called interoception. The better your interoception is, you can tell your body, okay, it's time to go to bed now, or it's not time to go to bed now. And then when you have that match, it'll just reward you so much more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, developing that intuition to listen to your body and knowing where to cash in and stop working and just go to bed.
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. And what are some of the, because we've touched on it a little bit, but what are some of the other parallels between improving your sleep and relationships, dating? What are some of the things you've noticed, like in terms of, you said the polarity, you said all of these things, but like, what are some of the main benefits and some of the main things you've noticed maybe in your clients or in yourself when you have better sleep with women?
For sure. Yeah. So depending on the relationship, like let's say somebody, they're just trying to get into relationships in terms of the pickup game, when you're doing cold approach or anything else like that, obviously, having just better, creativity, better comebacks, just saying the right thing at the right time, that's very important. But now when you're actually inside of a relationship, it takes two people to tango, and it requires you to become the best version of yourself in order to, understand what the other person is feeling, being able to read social cues, not saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. I've just seen a lot of people that I've worked with, especially younger, like guys in their 20s, 30s who are entrepreneurs. They're just always driven and they're always looking to get things done. And they burn all of their gas in their business. And then when they get home, they're absolutely exhausted, or maybe they're angry, and then they'll take that out on their wife or their girlfriend. But what if you just had so much energy throughout the day that by the time you did get home, you just effortlessly felt like you had all this energy. And so your bucket wasn't empty by time, you saw your spouse or whatever. And because as a result of that, maybe you're able to finish your day earlier and you can spend more time with them or do the activities that you want to do, or at least you don't feel stressed because you don't have this guilty feeling that you didn't accomplish the day. Now your girlfriend or your wife is like asking you to do things in the back of your mind. You're like, I just have all these things to do in my business. I do not have time to do stuff with you right now. So if you can just, get more done in a shorter period of time, you have more time to allocate for them, and also just more time to become a better person overall.
See, one thing also is the relationship between cortisol and testosterone, right? Because once you have less stress, you have less cortisol, so your testosterone goes up. And so even if in your sexual performance, in your confidence, like you show up better, right? Stuff like that as well, I guess.
Completely. Yeah. Testosterone, especially for young guys, it is the most important thing for us to have energy, to grow muscle, and to just be dominant in terms of our behavior, our motivation, our drive, our ability to think. Like if you find yourself waking up and you just do not have that much energy, and you're drinking coffee and you still don't have that much energy, it could be your testosterone's low. Even if you go to a doctor and get a blood test done and they test for total testosterone, it might look okay, but there's other things that they don't test for. And that's, one thing with conventional doctors that I sometimes have an issue with. They're great. They save people's lives, but there's so many, the testing you do is for the mass population. It's not sensitivity-based testing. That's why I like doing a lot more of this private stuff. But there's like total testosterone, there's your free testosterone. And if your free testosterone is low, it could be because your SHGB, also known as your sex hormone binding globulin, that's too high. That's lowering it. Things you also want to look at is like albumin, magnesium, zinc. Just there's a whole array here. But like you said, if your cortisol, your stress hormone, generally is too high, your testosterone is going to be lower too. And so your body at any time is going to be in an anabolic state or a catabolic state. So is your body building up and recovering, or is it breaking down and feeling stressed and things like that? And so obviously you can work out, but if you're putting too much stress on your body from working out, that is going to cause more of a cortisol response. So there's a lot of things to do here, but overall, the lower our cortisol can be, the higher our testosterone can be, and the better that we can just, perform in every single day. Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing that I've noticed too is, and you mentioned, I think in the course is, saunas and jacuzzis and those type of things, like sauna. When you go to the sauna regularly, etc., you can that really relieves also the cortisol, the stress. I've noticed it because here in Estonia, I'm in a cold country in Estonia. Canada also is pretty cold usually. Here we have a lot of saunas. Like every time I go to the gym, I go to the sauna, and even if I slept like 6 hours after I do a sauna, I feel like I've slept 8 hours and I'm good, because I don't know, I feel my body, I feel like in a bubble. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And that's all to do with inflammation, really, when it comes down to it. Inflammation, cortisol, using the sauna, they're showing like if you can do that every single day, it increases like all rate mortality. It decreases it by like an insane margin. I remember Dr. Rhonda Patrick was talking about it, but like just overall how we feel, our mood, our ability to focus. If we didn't get enough sleep, our body's going to be more inflamed. Going in the sauna, even better, doing like a hot cold plunge. So if you could go in like the sauna, go to a cold shower, back to the sauna, do that a couple rounds. That's another good one too. But yeah, that's one of the best ways to reduce cortisol. And thinking of it as active recovery versus passive recovery. So do you relax your body from just sitting down, watching Netflix, cracking open a beer and then going to bed after? Or are you going to like do this active recovery with a sauna or taking like a hot cold shower or like an Epsom salt bath or meditation or like a walk in the woods, things like that. You could, if time is money, we can get, recover our body so much more quickly through these other means of doing this more active recovery approach. And the sauna is one of the great ways to do it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And do you think an entrepreneur can sustain, like, do you think it's sustainable for an entrepreneur if he's a night person to sleep every night at, like, let's say 3 a.m. and to wake up at 10, 11? Is it sustainable if he has a good quality of sleep overall? Like, is it sustainable to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Some people's just natural rhythm in their body genetically. We'll do a genetic test and we'll see that they're a nighttime person. They say they go to bed at 3 and they say they feel awesome and they don't wake up at all throughout the night. They go to bed at 3, they wake up at 9, 10, 11 a.m. They have energy all day. And now they're able to work from, let's say noon till 2 a.m. if they choose to, because those are their peak performance hours too. Sometimes we're just brainwashed that we have to wake up at 4 a.m. and that's when we get our peak performance done. For some people though, it's midnight. For some people, so there's really no wrong thing here. It's really what works best for you.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And so one more question that I have for you is, because I was wondering, basically I saw in your course, like you have a lot of gadgets sometimes that you can buy to improve your sleep, right? You have a lot of, like you mentioned earlier, like the blue light blocking glasses and this and that. And so what is something that you bought for less than $50 that really benefited you like anything else for sleep? Something less than $50 that really changed the game for you in terms of sleep?
For sure. For me, it was probably blue light blocking glasses. My favorite brand, probably True Dark. You can even just go onto Amazon, but that's just one of the easiest things where you can just pop them on your eyes a couple hours before bedtime. And you're just going to save yourself hours of, bad sleep, and you're going to get quality sleep instead. But also getting like some of those I mentioned before, brain.fm, iristech.co, like those are just a couple bucks each month. And those are just so incredible. It's just gadgets and software that just run in the background essentially, to really improve all those elements. And there's other ones you can definitely do it too, but start with the basics. And then once you do that, you can start getting more advanced if you need to.
Mm-hmm. And do you still need, blue light blocking glasses, even if you have the software that you mentioned or Flux?
Good question. So I like the blue light blocking glasses because let's just say we were in a dark room and we just had our computer screen on with the blue light reducer on with the software. It's not too bad. But if you're like with the lights on and you're walking around the kitchen and whatnot, having at least those glasses on can really save you, at least that light getting into your eyes. But it doesn't hurt doing kind of that double approach with the blue light blocking and the glasses. It's I've noticed a difference myself and other people have too, but again, it's just personal preference.
Okay. Interesting. Do we still have like 5-10 minutes or?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. One more thing, man, is like, what is who was your main inspiration when it came to sleep? Like, who did you learn from the most? Like, was it, maybe it's an author or someone you know, or a mentor? Like, who was it that really influenced you the most in terms of sleep?
Yeah, great question. So I think the most popular one was Matthew Walker. He was on the Joe Rogan podcast Experience. He was incredible. Yes, why sleep matters. And he talks, he's amazing. Like, first of all, he's just, between his British accent and how he speaks about sleep, he kind of brings this childlike wonder to sleep. And, sleep is truly so fascinating. We think sleep is just this thing where we close our eyes, open our eyes, and we get on with it. But sleep is, in terms of the science, it is so in its infancy stages. Like, they really don't know why, from like a survival point of view, going back in evolutionary psychology, like, why do we actually need to sleep? So they're just kind of discovering some of this stuff now. But, every single week I'm seeing new things come out about sleep. And I think, we know a lot about diet and we know a lot about fitness and exercise, but sleep is that one that's still missing. And we all sleep anyway. Like, a new diet, a new exercise regime, that could be a little bit difficult. I mean, going to the gym, or a completely new diet, if it's easy if you work on it, but compared to sleep, if we're doing it already, it's only a few personalized tweaks. So Matthew Walker really kind of brought this childlike wonder to it. I remember seeing him on Joe Rogan for the first time. I was still kind of getting into sleep before that. And I was like, wow, this is fascinating. It was crazy. I remember every single one of the comments in Joe Rogan's video, people were like, this is so cool. Like, I just never saw that before. So that kind of gave a testament to like, wow, I can really make a business out of this too. And people resonate with it. He was one in terms of the sleep. You know, there was Tim Ferriss, there was Dave Asprey, there was Ben Greenfield. He was another one. Andrew Huberman is one that's more recently the Huberman Lab podcast. That's excellent. Tim Ferriss, though, he's probably one of the original early adopters in some of this stuff. Functional medicine doctors at the same time. But yeah, it's a little bit here, a little bit there. But these ones were really iconic for me, and the whole biohacking community, that was big too.
Yeah. Did you mention Dave Asprey, right? Or did you mention
Dave Asprey?
Yeah. That guy has like the coffee brand. Yeah, Bulletproof Coffee.
Yeah.
Bulletproof this.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah.
Did you try his Bulletproof Coffee with like the butter and everything? Like, did you do that yourself or?
Yeah, I'm actually glad you mentioned this, because when people drink coffee, it can actually create your body to create more cortisol and adrenaline, actually stress your body out more. So if you didn't get enough sleep, you're drinking coffee, your body is jacked up and wired more. You think you're more alert, but underneath your body is screaming at you like, I just need to rest right now. And that's why when we run, hormone testing on people, we can just see everything is tanked. And it's no wonder they can't sleep. But coffee when you add butter and MCT oil or like high brain octane oil or any of these things, good forms of fat inside of your coffee, instead of when you drink coffee black without anything in it, you get like a spike. When you have forms of fat, so like the MCT oil or like butter in your coffee or ghee in your coffee, you're going to slow release that coffee. So instead of being one short spike, it's going to be this gradual up and this gradual down. And as a result, it's going to be less stress on your body to do it. And you won't get it as much of a crash too within the afternoon. So, and it's also great for your appetite. And you can also do intermittent fasting with that because it subdues your hunger. So it's a really great shortcut to have that in the morning. 90 minutes after you wake up, you want to have your first cup of coffee. And then after that, you're good to go until 12, 1, 2 p.m. if you have it with that butter. Because in that coffee with the butter, there's a lot of calories in there. So it's great for ketosis, losing weight and everything as well. Yeah,
it lasts a lot longer when you add fat to the coffee and all of that. He talks about. I remember he talked about the fact that he went to like to a Tibetan. No, I don't know how we say it, but like he went to like an Asian type of country, and he found like those people in mountains drinking this special tea, and that was how he came up with the idea of the bulletproof coffee. He found people in Asia drinking this type of tea with like some fat in it. And he found that they were like they were having crazy energy with that.
Yeah, it's amazing. There's so much wisdom in a lot of those ancient cultures that we haven't discovered until more recently. But it can be more true.
Yeah. So one more question. So if you could turn back to your 18-year-old self, let's say right now you're I guess you're late 20s, right? Or late 20s.
Late 20s.
Okay, so if you could turn back to your 18-year-old self, like what would you tell yourself? What would you say to the young Riley?
Yeah, I would say to myself, I was really stressed out in the early beginning, and like I was just I think too hard on myself, wanted to go too fast, not taking my time and enjoying the journey. As cliche as that was, I wish if I could go back in and just enjoying the ride more. Like everything was going to work out as it was, just enjoying it more. You're going to meet the right people. You're going to find the knowledge. You're going to find the answers you need. Everything is going to work out fine. As long as you're continuing on the path and you don't quit, everything is going there. So I had to give myself, just looking back more, a little bit more comfort that way. And also the second thing I would say is, instead of focusing on like business tips and like all these different tips and things like that in books, that's incredible. But instead performance, then as a result, you can still do those business tips, but everything else is just way more effortless, and you can get like twice done in half the time. Yeah,
no, definitely. I've noticed that myself too. Great. Great one. And so awesome. And so one more question is, basically what do you think, or what do you hope, like the world would look like in 10 years? Like, what do you think, with the advancements of technology, with the advancements of biohacking, of science, etc., what do you think the world's going to look like in 10 years and all of that, with AI, with the rise of social media and all of that? Like, what's your take on that, on the world and how it's going today?
Yeah, it's a great question. Where it's all headed. I think, as much as there's crazy stuff happening in the world right now, and where they speculate things are headed. I think equally with technology, and like I'm also a biotech copywriter, so I get to speak with a lot of CEOs in biotech to see where these things are headed, with like multimillionaires and some billionaires investing into these companies of like anti-aging and like biometrics and robotics and all these other things. Just what I've seen is truly incredible, where they are apparently going to be able to make you live for a very long time, potentially reversed age. And so that's on that part. But how I just see things like on a day-to-day level is you go to your doctor, you maybe just scan your finger or do a quick prick blood test, and it will tell you exactly like what is your inflammation, like what nutrients are you deficient in, what is kind of the current state of the test, where they can just scan it. It tells you everything about your body, and it's computerized to the point where it just says, okay, take this, take that, take this. You don't have to necessarily see a doctor. Everyone can become their own doctor, and it's just, it's personalized healthcare ultimately, where you don't have to wait lots of time to get some kind of scan done, but you can see all this stuff in real time and know exactly what to do, and just know your genetics, know your hormones, know everything at one period of time and where those deficiencies are. And by doing that and just making the process easy, you can, just sleep better, get the body you want, and get everything else you want in your life.
Mm-hmm. So you said instead of going to a traditional doctor, we're going to be able to have the personal healthcare. Like we're going to be able to be our own doctor with technology and all of that, and have everything we need. That's what you're saying.
Yeah,
also.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be maybe you have to see a specialist to interpret some of those things. It'll be interesting what the future holds. But yeah, ideally you would just look on your phone or some kind of 3D reality we'll be in, and just be able to see, every single one of our biometrics in terms of, maybe a disease state, or maybe we wake up and it's saying, oh, you're not feeling very focused today because it seems like you're inflamed. Okay, try some of this drink today. This is what you want to try. And then boom, it's connected to your kitchen where it creates this drink for you. So you just have to drink that, and then you can get on with your, just stuff like that. So
nice.
Having your own health integrated with like a smart home, maybe integrated with like stores you can go to that have your profile, it definitely raises a lot of questions, but at the same time, the future looks bright in terms of that stuff. Now, is that 5 or 10 years away? Hard to say, but I think at some point it'll be there.
It's great. So you have a pretty positive take on the future with technology, etc. You're pretty optimistic about that. You're not like too gloomy or negative about, because in 2045, Ray Kurzweil, the technological guy from Google, the director, he says, we're going to achieve singularity between us and the machines and all of that, and with AI. So a lot of people have this take of like, some people have a darker take, and some people have this optimistic take of like, we're going to live longer, we're going to do everything, we're going to be able to. So it's great that you have that take as well. Now, one thing also is the stem cells. I wanted to ask you about stem cells. So have you heard of that? What do you think about that? I see a lot of people like Tony Robbins and Dan Bilzerian and all of that doing stem cells in Costa Rica or whatever. And so what do you think about that? Do you think people should do it? Have you tested it? What do you think?
Yeah, I think stem cells it's super interesting. It's obviously on the forefront of science right now. I don't think it's reached a mainstream level yet. It's more of sort of the private healthcare. I think the ultra wealthy are people who can afford it are doing it. But the people who are doing it are just seeing tremendous results. Like I heard Joe Rogan talking about how it was injected into his shoulder. I think like once every so often. It's like he has full mobility now, where he doesn't have that pain anymore. But I mean, think of just people who have had joint pain or just a deterioration of their cartilage or any like discs in their back, and now they can start regrowing that and doing something again. So I think, other things with technology is they're able to, regrow specific things like a disc, like in a laboratory, whether it's with 3D printing or something else that's identical to your biology. And, they don't have to find like a donor for an organ or something like that for you. I think through stem cells and different technology like this, a lot of these things are going to become possible where we can restore again. But until that time comes, until you can get it, by focusing on your health, your sleep, everything you can do that's in your control, you can minimize the risk of any of that kind of stuff happening to you.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Riley. And I think we're gonna wrap it up because you have a lot of things to do, and myself too. But it was super interesting, man. Thank you so much for everything. Where can people find? Yeah, thanks. Where can people find you right now if they want to improve their sleep, get to the next level? Where can they find you?
Definitely. They can go to my website, thesleepconsultant.com. THE Sleep Consultant, or Facebook. And then you can also email me directly at Riley, RILEY, at thesleepconsultant.com.
Okay, so the thesleepconsultant.com, and if they want to message you, email you, Riley at thesleepconsultant.com.
Yep.
Perfect. Awesome. So yeah, go check his work, guys. He has amazing material, and I highly recommend working with him if you're struggling with sleep and you want to take it to the next level. And apart from that, yeah, I mean, it was great having you, man. I'm going to keep watching your course because I'm still in the middle.
Awesome.
Cool. Yeah, I've learned a lot so far, and it really gave me a lot more motivation to sleep sooner. But it's hard, because I'm a DJ. I DJ a lot. Like even tonight, I'm going to DJ from like 9 to 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And it's like it's hard because that's my rhythm.
Yeah, it is.
But
yeah. Quality matters most.
Yeah. Yeah, but thanks, man. Thank you so much. And yeah, quality over quantity. That's something interesting too, because you could have 6 hours of sleep and you could still manage to have a quality sleep if you do it correctly. Yeah,
totally. Yeah, get to bed at 3:30 a.m. and you can still get great sleep with the quality of those hours. But yeah, really appreciate you having me on, and I hope people learned a lot today.
Thank you, man. See you soon, Riley, and we keep in touch. Thank you.